Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on your time zone. You are watching Seeds for You by Sherry. And if this is our first time meeting, I am Sherry. Today I have a special guest here with me today. It is one of my longtime friends I have with me today, Miss Stacy Steele. And we are going to be talking about life, as a matter of fact. We're going to just have some girl talk today, and I'm sure that you're going to find this conversation to be quite interesting and engaging and whatnot. But before we get started, um, we'll be right back after this. Okay, welcome back to the show. Again, you are watching Seeds for You by Sherry. And if we are meeting for the first time, I am Sherry. I have with me today my longtime friend, Stacy Steele, and we are going to be talking girl talk today. So I'm sure that some of you are going to find this information to be quite engaging. You know how we like to talk about men and our lives, so we're going to talk about all of that today. Okay, we're just going to sit here. We're just going to engage in a conversation. But before we do any of that, if you have not hit the subscribe button, please go ahead and do that right now. And if you have been stopping by to see our shows on a regular basis and you have not subscribed yet, please do that. So we would like the likes, we would like the comments, all of that stuff. And please subscribe. Hit that notification bell so that you are informed anytime we upload new content. You want to be there because things are going to start heating up here after a while. We're going to have a lot of stuff coming down the pike for you for 2024. And anyway, so before we get started, I would like my friend to go ahead and introduce herself. She can share a little bit about her, and then we're going to get right into it.
Hi, my name is Stacy Steele. I live in the Houston area. I am an educator. I've been an educator for over 20 years, and I have a fabulous daughter. And I just enjoy life peacefully.
Peacefully. That's what we're after. We're after peace. Okay, we know that there are a lot of things going on in the world today, and so it's kind of hard to maintain your peace, but you have to find a way. But anyway, let's get into this girl talk that I was talking about. You said you had a question for me.
Yes, I wanted to know, why do people stay in relationships that they're unhappy in, or the love is gone and they're still there? Why do you think people choose to stay in relationships that they're unhappy in?
Okay, first of all, I'm assuming that you're talking about from a woman's point of view.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a lot of different factors to consider here. We know that for women, it's a little more difficult for us to leave when children are involved. Okay, we didn't really sign up, especially if we chose to get married. Okay, we're trying to do things all the right way, so we didn't really sign up to be a single parent. So once the children are involved, women naturally want to keep their families intact. So they may want to stay in a relationship because they have children involved. And we know that it is more difficult for children to continue on in life when they come from a broken home. And even though we have a lot of women that are independent nowadays and feel like they don't need men, you would discover real fast that men are actually needed in the home. Okay, so sometimes they stay because they're afraid to step out in terms of getting apartments or jobs or childcare. So we have all of those different factors to consider uh, when we're in relationships.
So, if I'm understanding you correctly, because of these things, because I think coming from an educational background, that some of these kids, even though you don't tell them and you try to hide it, they know.
Mhm.
They know that you're unhappy. And when they come to school, it shows in their behavior or other ways that they show. So, is it worth staying with someone knowing that, yeah, the kids might want you together? Yes, I understand the whole thing of having a family, and family being together. But if it's not a healthy relationship, are we helping the kids, or I'm just trying to get an understanding of when do you say, okay, this is not working. I want to keep the family together. It's not working. We went to counseling. We did all of that. What's next?
Okay, so you want to make sure that you're considering everything. You don't want to rush into a speedy decision because sometimes women are driven by emotions. So we
Mm-hmm.
feel like, oh, I'm mad, I'm upset, I'm just not going to take this. I'm not going to deal with this. But we can't always let our emotions drive because that's going to steer us wrong. So you want to take your time in making this kind of decision, but you don't want to stay too long if it's going to ultimately end anyway. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you're covering everything. How is this going to affect my child? How are we going to move on? And am I going to be able to sustain a family on my own? Is he going to be able to provide for us in a broken situation? So and then also it depends on what is it that's not making you happy. Is it because he's leaving his clothes on the floor? Is it because he's not putting the top back on to the toothpaste? Or is it that, or is it because he's beating you? Is it because he's gambling away the money and you're always at risk of being on the street? Those are serious things to consider. If you're dealing with those type of situations, if he's beating on you, of course, if you have daughters, you don't want to teach your daughter to remain in a relationship where a man is beating you. If you have sons, you don't want to teach your sons that this is what you need to do to your women to keep her in her place. So when you're dealing with that versus something else, is he not keeping a job? And most of the time you can't pay your bills, you're getting eviction letters and all that kind of stuff. Those are serious matters that you want to consider. But is it just because you're in a situation where I feel like I'm always cleaning up and he just leaves his stuff on the floor? Well, you might be able to just bite your tongue on that and hang around for a while. Because the kids are not going to be kids forever either.
I agree with that. And sometimes, like, women talk to me and they want to leave the relationship, but because of their Christianity and the way they are taught in the church, then they feel they have to stick with this man. They have to stay in this relationship and stuff like that. What do you think? What is your perception on things of that sort or that type of thinking?
Okay, so if I were in a situation where I just really say for a lot of times people marry people for the wrong reason. They get married for conveniences and stuff, and it's not really love. They didn't really sit down and consider everything that they should have considered. What kind of background does this person come from? What is their track record like? They don't consider all those things, and so now they're in this relationship, and then all of a sudden you find out, I don't want to be with this person.
Mhm.
I really don't want to be with this person. So for me, when I start having those type of feelings, that's not good because now are you becoming the person that is making the other person miserable because you don't want to be there.
Be there.
So you don't want to perform wifely duties. You don't want to cook. You don't want to clean. You don't have anything at all to do with him. So now I feel like you are the one that's in error because now you are making him miserable. So I just feel like you really need to look at all of the avenues. And when you're talking about marriage, that's not something that you should enter into lightly anyway. But we have a lot of people that rush into it.
Absolutely. Let me
You know?
interject here.
Okay.
And I know that there's Christian people that's watching, and they're probably saying, "Oh well, what God put together, let no man put asunder." And I get that, but sometimes we get with people that God didn't even put us together.
Right.
Our own lusts,
Exactly.
comfortability, whatever the situation might be, it has nothing to do with God. So I'm not talking about people that God has actually showed you this person in a dream, showed you when you walked past this person, you felt something spiritually that connected you to that person. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about these relationships where people get together, like I said, whether it's lust, whether it's, oh, we've been friends for a while, we get along together, we vibe together, and then years down the line, you all can't stand each other. You know, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about real true connections that God, you know, has put together. And like I said, I know that, you know, there's Christian people that's watching this saying, you know, well, why isn't she talking about them staying together? I would love for any relationship to stay together, but the reality is God hasn't put everybody together.
Exactly.
And I think in situations like that, when you have invested so much time and energy in something, you cannot put a price on a peace of mind. And that's just how I feel. What do you think about a peace of mind and
Having
having a peace of mind?
a peace of mind is everything. Because once that peace is disturbed, you could actually find yourself in a situation where you're starting to experience ailments, and it's affecting your health. It's affecting your well-being, in the point where you don't want to go to work, or maybe you're going to work as a place to escape, and then you don't want to come home. So when you start reaching that point, then I think it's time to really sit down and have some real conversations about what is it that's really making you unhappy? What is it that's really making you not want to be there? Is it because you made a poor choice, and you didn't seek and make sure that this was the right person for you? Because some people, I know somebody who got married to somebody really quick and their marriage lasts, but that's not the case in most situations. So I just feel like, don't enter into it lightly. Make sure that this is absolutely what you feel is right for you, and hope that you are choosing wisely, so that both of you are on the same page. Both of you are willing to support each other in everything that you're doing, because once that starts, that leaves the relationship. And the respect, you got to have respect. If once all of that goes
Absolutely.
out the door, you have some serious problems.
And I agree with you. And I also feel that those who do believe in God, seek God. You know, if you want this companion, seek God. And when you seek God, wait for the answer. You know, don't just, oh, well, I asked God and he hasn't said that. He's probably speaking to you, but you're so anxious to get in this relationship or this marriage that you're missing what God's showing you.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because something else that I would like to add to that is in terms of dating in the church and finding a mate in the church. Just because you are dating someone in the church does not necessarily mean that that particular person is the person that God has for you. Now, in my experience, to me, church dating is a lot more complicated. First of all, you're not dating like the world dates, because the world fornicates and everything, but the church is not supposed to do that. So sometimes you have church members, they see you dating, and they automatically marry you. So they're asking you, should I be putting a date on my calendar? So they start planting these seeds in your mind about getting married, and asking questions about, when are you getting married? And not that there's a cardinal sin or anything, but you have to be careful with it, because it is indirectly planting seeds. And then for the
Absolutely.
woman, it may become pressure for her, because now she feels like she needs to get married and not miss this, because she doesn't want to suffer the embarrassment if the marriage doesn't happen. And so you
Absolutely.
got the church actually adding in, well-meaning, they might be well-meaning, But if this is not who God has for you, and they're planting those seeds, and then you go ahead and get married, a few months or a year down the road, you're getting a divorce in the church.
Absolutely.
And so you start seeing more divorces in the church. So when I was dating in the church, I didn't want everybody to know that we were dating. Not that I was hiding him, but I didn't want all of that feedback and all of those questions. I didn't want people getting in that because I already know how that works. And I feel like if it's really going down the direction that God wants it to go, that will come in time, that you will be able to share that information. But I just feel like keep them out of it as long as you can, because those seeds start to come.
Absolutely.
So you got to be careful with that, and then you end up in a divorce in the church, and you feel like, well, y'all was both saved.
Yeah.
You know, why y'all get divorced? Both of y'all Christians, both of y'all, somebody backslid.
Right. And you know what? People are always going to assume, they're always going to, pick sides, or they're going to say a lot of things. And I would just say that I try not to listen. I listen, but I try not to let people be engaged in what I'm a very private person. And I have chose to be that way because people telling me at a young age, oh, well, you should do this, and this is how you do, this. And I wasn't listening to God and what God wanted to do. And I made a lot of bad decisions, listening to others and not following my own intuition or my own discernment, of when I ask God something, or when I will see red flags. Sometimes we ignore the red flags.
Right.
Because they do this and they do, and I ain't never had nobody to treat me like this. So, and it's all kind of red flags going off. I mean, you're seeing them left and right, and you totally ignore them. What you're seeing. But let's go to how raising kids, because I see a lot of women and men that have kids, and they totally ignore their kids when they get in a relationship, when they get remarried. It's like, what do you think about that? Have you seen any of that, or what you think?
The first thing that comes to mind in those situations is selfishness. Selfishness. So we have some women who they have children, and they get in these relationships, and they ignore all of those flags because they want that man. And they have children from other relationships and things, and they want this man. So they start to compromise in a lot of ways. And especially if you have daughters and you bringing another man into your home that is not the natural father, although we have cases where the natural father gets out of order with his own natural children. But you have this man over your daughter or son, that's bringing a lot of wrong type of energy and everything. And then you see the flags. Other people see the flags. People try to tell you about it, and you ignore it because you don't want to sacrifice this relationship. For me, that's being very selfish. Because once you get these kids here who didn't ask to be born, you need to consider them over everything.
Okay, so what about these relationships where a man and a woman be like, well, I know that, this is going somewhere, and I know that this is the person, for me, and stuff like that. And they get in there and like they're buying this person all this stuff, and their kids are lacking. Their kids are lacking like shoes, clothes, but they're doing everything for this person they're in a relationship. What do you think about situations like that?
Okay, who is the person that's buying?
It could be the female,
Okay.
that's with the guy, or it could be a guy that's with a female, and he bought her a new car, and his kids, they don't have shoes. They barely have food at the house to eat. I mean, what do you think about those
Well,
type of situations?
for one, they have their priorities mixed up. Again, I have to go back to being selfish, because you're not really thinking about the child. You're thinking about yourself, and you're thinking about what you're trying to get and what you're trying to have. Sometimes when women are divorced and they have children, they try to buy back the time that they lost before they had kids and before they were married. But at the same time, you're still sacrificing your children, and your children become collateral damage. So you got to really you have to understand that, okay, I got these kids here and I really need to do right by them. And the other thing you need to remember is that these kids are not going to be kids forever. They're only going to be kids for a season. So you can live through that, go ahead and get these kids through school, give them the support that they need because they're already hurting because they're from a broken home, and just be there and sacrifice that. And then once they get of age, then you start thinking about yourself, okay, it's my time. And actually, that time goes by really fast.
It does.
It goes by really fast.
So what about when you're new in a relationship and they want to introduce, like you've been maybe seeing this person and talking to this person for about, I'll say 2 weeks, and now they want to introduce this person to the kids? What time frame, or do you think it should even be a time frame on when they should meet the kids?
I think it is a time frame. I am divorced myself, and so I made a lot of mistakes in the past. But looking back now and having more wisdom, I would suggest if you are divorced or you are now just a single parent, however that came about, uh, I don't think that you should rush and introduce them to your children. Reason being is because, and remember I said relationships move really fast now. So most of the time, people don't really start to show their true color until around the 6-month mark. So if you introducing your kids to somebody 2 weeks in, a month in, a couple months in, or whatever like that, that's premature for me. And not only that, but if that relationship doesn't work, then now this person is gone. This child is now suffering another loss, and whatever emotions they're dealing with from that initial loss, maybe they feel deserted, by the one parent or whatever, and then they started liking this new person that you brought, and now this new person is gone. This, to me, is adding salt to a wound for a child.
I
And
agree.
yeah, all this changing because you don't know where the relationship is going to go, whether it's going to last. So wise parents, whenever I notice people who are in the dating realm with children and I find that they don't take people home to meet their kids right away, I have respect for them.
I'm
I
gonna
have
tell you,
respect for
I'm
them.
glad you said the 6 month mark, because when I was dating early on, I had went through a divorce and I was trying to, get back out there and, meet um, people and go on dates. And so I had a 6 month mark. You wasn't going to be introduced. My daughter wasn't going to even know anything about you till after 6 months, after I was sure that, okay, well, this seemed like it's going somewhere. It seemed like it's, might be going in the right directions. But it wasn't until 6 months later that I would introduce her to somebody that I felt I wanted to be in a relationship. And also what I did is, like, when she was maybe 8, I stopped dating completely. I stopped dating until her high school years when she turned a junior. And the reason I did that is because I didn't want her to grow up as an adult and she come back and tell me, well, Mom, your boyfriend, did such and such. I was very particular on what she could do, like where she could go and spend a night, those type of things. I knew that I wasn't seeing anybody. So it was safe for, people to come over to my house. I even would introduce myself to their parents, was like, hey, you can come over my house, we can talk or what have you. But I would prefer your kid to stay at my house than my child to stay at someone else's house,
Yeah.
because I was very particular. During that time, did I get lonely? Um, yeah, but I was so engaged in her life and doing the best that I could for her, so she could have a successful childhood, so she could, because she had gone through so much anyway.
Right.
So it was a sacrifice that I was willing to make, and I'm glad I did, because now that she's a grown lady, me and my daughter relationship is like this. It hadn't always been like that. It took us going through some ups and downs because, like I said, I became a single parent. Me and her dad divorced. So it was trying to get myself through that period of time. And me and my daughter close. She tells me everything. And when I tell people that, they laugh, Sherry, and they be like, oh, your daughter don't tell you everything. She does. I could call her on the phone and she'll tell, oh yeah, I tell my mom everything. And it's because I didn't judge her. I didn't put her down because I was a young lady once. And I know I grew up, my mother was a minister. And I know I went through some things, you know, I did some things. So I knew in life she was going to experience those things. You know, what do you say about children who they have parents that are so strict and they feel they can't talk to them, so they get involved in other things or start talking to other people that might influence them the wrong way of doing things that, you know.
Now, it's pros and cons to that because I came from a very shielded and protective home. My mother was extremely strict. It's good and bad to that. Some of the strictness is good because it comes from a place of protecting your child, like being a guardian angel to your child. You're protecting your children from a lot of things. So our parents really shielded us from a lot of things. I appreciate that. But the downside to that is that when you are so strict, your children are very green when they get out. And like, so my first year of college, when I went away to college, I was like, oh my God, it's a world out here. It's a real world. And then I was buck wild. I was trying to make up for everything I could make up for all the years that I was living in my mama's home. And that carried over for a long time. And you just really start doing a lot of things that your parent, you know, taught against. You know,
Yes.
but you just, it's like you trying to make up. So I think you should give some leeway to your children, but just make sure that you're being very selective on the things that you're choosing to let them do, because you do want them to be well-rounded. You want to give them opportunities, let them experience some things, but you just want to make sure that you're careful in the things that you're allowing them to do so that you don't have all of these mishaps.
Right.
You know,
right,
with them experimenting things, because when you're green and they get out there and people can recognize that right away. Oh, they haven't been out, they don't know nothing, and then they start, you know, running games on them.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
so you got to be careful with that.
Yeah, but you know what, Sherry, I had to learn too. Even when my daughter got older, there's a path and there's a process that we go through, and everything I have gone through in life, good, bad, or in between, made me the woman that I am today. And had I not gone through certain things, and some things I could have avoided, but I feel like all of it was a part of God's plan to make me the woman that I am now. Because had I not gone through it, I wouldn't be able to tell another young lady, hey, you know, I understand what you're going through and you can make it through. You know, this is how you do it. But everybody has a path that they have to take. Everybody has things that they go through to develop them in the person that God is trying to make them to be, to reach their destiny. You know what I'm saying? So what do you think about that?
I get that, and I totally agree on that. But when you're parenting, and I like to consider myself as a guardian angel, because you really have this position where you're supposed to protect, lead, and guide. So you want to make sure that you are shielding your children from certain things, but giving them the wisdom to know other things, because some mistakes you can learn from and get up and dust yourself off and go on. But then there are those mistakes that are lifetime
Absolutely.
mistakes. And those are the ones that you really want to try to guard your children against. You know, those lifetime mistakes, something that they got to live with forever, when it was really just a thing that they were young and inexperienced and they didn't really know what they were doing and everything like that. So you just really want to try to guard as best as you can. But then even in those cases, sometimes if that's their path, that's their path. And but those are just the more serious cases.
Yeah.
You know, more serious
I
cases.
agree.
Like a lifetime mistake is having a baby. If your baby have a baby at 12, okay, she gonna have that baby forever until one of them, you know, the Lord decides to take one home. But 12 is very young to be trying to do something that they are not equipped to do.
Yeah.
You know, or you have a young child that ends up in prison and now they are marked, you know, because they got with the wrong people. So you got to teach your children, have your own mind, make your own decisions. Don't let people influence you into doing something that you know is not right.
Right.
So we want to try to guard them against those lifetime mistakes.
Right. And the Bible does say, train up a child in the way that they should go. And when they get older, they won't depart from it. So I totally agree with what you said. It's some things that you want to prevent your kids from, some choices that, you hope that you training them up and you raising them and you being an example to them, that it will help them to make better choices and stuff like that. So I totally agree with you.
And I'm glad that you said that part about being an example. Because a lot of times parents really don't know the calling that's on your life as a parent. That is truly a calling. But a lot of people, of course, we're having children in all types of situations and stuff like that, and because a lot of times it's just because we don't know the deepness of that.
Right.
But when you, like for instance, when I got my divorce, because I went straight from my mom's house into a marriage, so I never had that time to grow independently on my own. And so now that I'm divorced, I'm out of a strict home and I'm out of a marriage. So it's now I'm dating this guy, I'm dating that guy, dating this guy, dating that guy. And when you have a child involved, they see this. And so you may feel like it's not really affecting that child because maybe the child is 5 or something. You think they're too young. But somewhere along the line, some of those things are recalled in their memory.
Yeah.
And so if you're dressing, where you're like dressing provocatively all the time because you're trying to get attention from men or you like that type of pull or whatever, the problem with that is that your daughter is watching. And so now when all of a sudden you have a come to Jesus moment and you have left those things behind, now your daughter is doing it and you just like looking like this, like, oh my God, don't do that, don't do that. Well, where do you think she got it from?
Absolutely.
So you have passed that down. So you really need to be conscious of the decisions that you make when you have children involved.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with you. My door wasn't a revolving door. I didn't have a whole bunch of people coming in and out because I wanted her to know, yeah, you want your child to grow up to meet, a guy that, God has sent to her life, get married. And I'm talking from a female point of view because I have a daughter. Meet the guy, and things work out, in both of their favor. But then you also want to live a life that's respectful and they can see, oh, well, you know what, my mama has virtue. She's a virtuous woman. That's how I want to be. I want to be like my mother. My daughter tell me all the time, I'd be like, well, babe, she's like, well, Mom, I want to do it like you and Dad did. I want to be married. I want to make sure that I'm financially stable to take care of a kid and whoever God brings me, my husband, that, they have their stuff together. Now, is things going to always be perfect? Absolutely not. But if you have two people that want to be together and willing to do the work, then, and putting God in it during the process, I think it'll work out. But it's all in the way, like going back to what you said, how you present yourself and how you carry yourself as a woman, and not just a woman, but young men. Fathers teaching their sons how to be young men. Because even though they're single parent moms, a mom can't really, she's not a man. Now, she can teach her son how to be respectful, how to, treat women the right way and things like that. But I think some things should come from a male. And if it's not their father, some male should be in their life that can teach them, some things and how to be a man, a well-respected man. What do you think?
About having those good role models?
Yeah, the good role models.
In today's world, it's really hard trying to find good role models because a lot of people are presenting themselves in a light that they are not truly walking in.
True.
So you have to just really be very observant and really pay attention. I tell my grandson, I say, whenever you become interested in a young lady, I say, don't even let her know you're interested. I say, just watch her. I say, because if she knows you're interested, then she's going to become an actress. She's going to do the things that she thinks is appealing to you, that's interesting to you, or whatever, and you're not getting her true self.
Yeah,
I said, but if
true.
you watching her when she doesn't know you're interested and she's being herself, then you get to know a lot more about her that way.
And I think that people, they can only keep up that facade for so long before they true self come out. And my dad, rest his soul, used to always tell me, Stacy, when a guy show you who he truly is, believe it.
Believe it.
Believe
Oh
it.
God, I live
Believe
by
it.
that.
Believe
I
it.
live by that because that's the truth. That's the whole truth. So help me God.
Yeah.
It is really true, So
Yeah.
yeah, you just really got to be careful. And the other thing that I don't like is people rush their relationships too much. And we have a lot of people who have children by men they don't know.
Wow. Could you elaborate on that a little bit
Yeah,
more?
because they didn't know him. They go to a club, they meet somebody, I'm feeling him, he feeling me, and next thing you know, then they're into a physical relationship and they are waking up love before it's time, and so the love never happens. And then sometimes a child is conceived out of those situations, and
Yeah.
they have a kid, and now you want the guy, you telling him that you're pregnant, you want him to be there. He don't know you and you don't know him. You haven't taken the time to
Absolutely.
get to know anything about him, his background. Is his mama crazy? Is his daddy crazy? Do they have mental illness in this family? Is somebody practicing witchcraft? Those things you have not taken the time to get to know because you have rushed into a relationship because you thought he was fine. He looked good in his jeans, girl. He looked good in those jeans. Ooh, I can see his muscles. You're attracted to all the wrong stuff. All
Right,
the wrong
right.
stuff. And now you got a baby. And the baby don't know the daddy, and you don't know the daddy, and now you got another child that's dealing with a lot of emotions
Right,
that
because
they have no explanations for.
right, because you're making a long time decision on a temporary situation. It might not last. It might not go anywhere, but because you're in your flesh, or, he got money. Oh, his car, he got this type of car. Or, oh, man, she look good, this type of thing. Then you make decisions off of that.
I'm glad you threw the car in there because when you in those fly-by-night relationships, the car he driving might not even be his. I
Absolutely.
met a man, he was
Absolutely.
picking me up in a car and even let me drive, and come to find out that car belonged to another woman. He didn't have one.
Wow.
He didn't have one. So these are the things you need to take the time to get to know. You need to find out things, get to know people. Don't rush it. If it's meant for you, it's going to
It's
be.
going to be for you.
It's going to be.
Yes.
Take your time and choose wisely. Choose wisely. You'll feel a lot better in the end.
Oh, this was some good stuff. These were some good topics because I just be thinking about things sometimes and I'd be like, why did that person make that choice? And even choices that I made in life, I'd be like, why did I do that? Because now that I look back, even in relationships, like say you in this relationship with this guy, and to you, I mean, he's all that in a bag of chips. And it seems like we don't really see the fullness of what the relationship was and what that role that person played in our life until it's over and done with. Because I see some people now be like, what was wrong with me? And they, they probably look at me and be like, why did I talk to
My mom
her?
used to say, she used to say, you create a man in your mind, in your mind, because sometimes we put them on a pedestal and we make them out to be something that they are not. And then they can't even keep up with that expectation because we have created in our mind that they're this great, wonderful person, and it's all in our mind.
And you're right, it's all in our minds. And sometimes when you go through things in life and your self-esteem is not as high as it should be, then you tend to make some bad choices. Whether it because you don't love yourself, you think you're not good enough, people have really did you wrong, or whatever the situation might be. I found out in my life, I went through a lot because my self-esteem was low because of the person I chose, to be with. And instead of realizing, okay, Stacy, well, they have issues too that they're dealing with, and even though they say things not to take it so personal and feel like I wasn't good enough, or, oh man, I don't look like this woman, so, why they didn't choose me, why they choose this person. Once I matured, not only in this physical body and form, my mental, as that matured, as spiritually I matured, I began to see that, hey girl, you good.
I'm glad you brought up the appearance because that's something that women are. How do I want to address that? It's a lot of pressure on women to look a certain way. We can't all
Absolutely.
be Barbies. We can't all be models. We can't all be Beyonce. Whatever is all of that to you. And what I have learned down through the years is that it doesn't matter how good you look. It doesn't matter how fine you are. If a man wants you, he wants you, and if he doesn't, he doesn't. You could be the
Absolutely.
finest thing on the market and still get cheated on. Because if you even look at Hollywood right now, you will see them. When they are in their moment in their time when they are all dialed up. They got their team doing their makeup. They got their team doing their hair. They got those people who designers
Right.
making their clothes fit like a
Right.
glove. And stuff like that. They got all of that. They got the money. They got the talent. What else could you ask for? And then you find out they're being cheated on. So, yeah, and not only that, but beauty is going to fade one day. So if you're attracting a
Absolutely.
man off of beauty alone, you don't really have much because you're not going to be the finest thing that walk by him. Just like you find it's some other fine people. So you got to have more than just a
Absolutely.
look. And I think if
Absolutely.
you have personality, if you have confidence and respect, if you have respect for yourself, then you're not getting ready to just draw anything.
And I'm
Because
glad
he's
you
gonna
said that.
understand that she's not going for anything. I can't sell her anything. I can't sell her white for the rice.
I'm glad you said that, because setting boundaries. If you let people cross your boundaries, and I'm not saying boundaries to where you think you all that in a bag of chips and can't nobody, say nothing or meet your standards. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about if you truly have self-confidence and know who you are, you're not going to tolerate, a guy telling you, hey, well, baby, can I come over at midnight? Midnight for
Not
what?
only that, but you're not going to be attracted to that.
Right.
So
right.
just like he's looking for something good, you looking for something
some good too.
Yeah,
Yes.
and if you tell me, you can't call me until after a certain hour. No.
Right.
No, I'm not gonna pick up the phone. I'm not gonna talk to you because that's disrespectful.
Right.
You're trying to come over in it. And I'm not saying I've never done that in my life, because when I was younger, I made some dumb decisions and stuff like that, and I let that happen, but you can't do that now.
But you learned,
I learned
from
from it.
those mistakes, just like I learned from my mistakes. Certain things that I even did maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I will not tolerate it now, because I learned from those things. You know what I'm saying? So as you
And look,
mature and learn, then you do better and make better choices.
I got so good at it now, I could tell the way you walk whether or not this gonna work. Because you can have an attitude about you. And a good example of that is one time my sister invited me to come to a service where, supposedly this preacher had this gift of preaching or prophecy or whatever that gift was. I had never seen a man before in my life. He hadn't come out yet when we first got to the service, so we sitting and we're waiting. As soon as he walked through the crowd, nobody had to tell me who he was. I already knew. I said, that's him right there. She was like, Sherry, how you know? I said, I could tell by the way he walked.
Right.
That's him. And so sometimes, sometimes men have, an air about them. And it's like some men sometimes think they finer than you, and stuff like
That's
that. So
true.
I can just tell a lot of times, by the way they're carrying themselves, that this is not going to work.
As a young woman, the physical appearance and how they treated me temporarily, they might have, been nice up front and at first for a couple of months, and then I could truly see their true side. But back then, I made choices based off the physical. Now, I'm like, intellectual. You have to you have to really mentally connect with me. Absolutely. Because if you don't, 5 minutes in a conversation, I'm like, okay, back it up, time to go. It's nothing else that we need to talk about. And nowadays, men, first of all, women and men send these pictures. You don't know me from Adam, but you want to send me some personal pictures of you that I don't necessarily need to see.
Right.
What's that nowadays? Where they send you these pictures, or either the first thing come out their mouth is something about sex.
Well, I think it's the culture that we live in now. You know, the Bible already told us in the last days it's going to be like Sodom and Gomorrah. Good is going to be looked at as evil. Evil going to be looked at as good.
Right.
So if America can take all their clothes off and just walk around naked, we will see that right now. People don't really want to have a lot of clothes on no more, and that's part of the culture. That's part of the time. That's part of the evil that has been unleashed in the land. So yeah, you're gonna have, they're sending these pictures, and a lot of people, they don't see anything wrong with that.
I know.
They don't see anything wrong
I
with it. It's like it's
know.
a natural, accepted thing in our culture today.
It seems like our culture and society has accepted a lot of things
Oh,
that I'm
absolutely.
like, what is going on? It's like even some of the things that some of the guys, you know, because I'm a single woman, and when I'm out and they're trying to get to know me, some of the things they say is so like disrespectful about how they want to do certain things. I don't want to hear that. You know, I don't even know you for
Let
you
me,
to even want to tell me something like that.
as you were saying that, I was thinking about like dating in the world today. If you're a person that loves the Lord and you walking with Him, most guys, when they try to date me, I tell them off the cuff. I say, you don't want to date me.
Why?
And then they'll want to know why. It's because I'm not dating the way other people date. You know,
Absolutely.
I'm not dating the way they date. So the things that you're used to doing, it's not gonna happen with me.
Absolutely.
And I started getting such a reputation that when some of the guys at the job would share with some of the other guys, they was gonna try to holler at me. The guy would tell her, she not gonna go for that.
Right.
She's not gonna be the
Right.
one, brother, because you're not gonna be able, all that stuff you doing, because they know they trying to play the field and stuff. They was like, that ain't gonna fly with her.
Yeah. And I was even like that as a younger lady. I was very particular about the people that I dated, how I presented myself and stuff like that. Because, you know, even in junior high, the boys knew the girls who would and knew the girls who wouldn't.
Right.
You know, they would sit in the locker room and talk about it. So I've always been particular about, you know, things like that. I didn't want to put myself out there as being a promiscuous woman or, you know, somebody that was easy.
And then not being from Texas, you know, and comparing my experience from home opposed to my experience here in Texas, I've been observing, and I noticed that guys here, what I've been noticing a lot about guys here is that some of them are really proving themselves to be great fathers, even when they're not with the mother of their kids. They're proving themselves to be great fathers. Another thing I noticed is that they already know ahead of time whether that girl is a girl they would holler at or not. Now, they might holler at her for a play toy, but they already know that's not somebody they want to do long term.
Right.
And I would just be sitting there, and I would be like, oh, she is really pretty. She's really pretty. I said, there's one for you. You'd be like, And it's
Really?
why? Because she already, people have already got to know her, if you know what I'm saying.
Right,
And he
right.
already know that, so he's just like, he's not interested because that's not what he's looking for. Now, if he just want to play toy, oh yeah, I'm getting ready to flirt, we getting ready to play and stuff like that, but don't expect nothing more.
Right. And it's the same way with like men. I've heard women say, oh girl, don't let him talk to you because he get around. Or, you know, they'll tell me, oh girl, well, you know, don't talk to him. He got some other stuff going on. So it's the same, you know, same way. And I don't know. I'm just, when you have gone through life and you have experienced some things in life, can't nobody just come and tell you anything. And I'll be like, oh, well, okay then. Well, let's try to make this work. Not me.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up too. That's another interesting topic as well. When you have other people giving you plugs about somebody,
Right.
you got to understand a motive too, because sometimes a girl may be interested in the same person you're interested in.
Absolutely.
And so you can't always take what they're saying.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to derail you or give you a decoy away from that person because they have an interest. But then there's a flip side to that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they are trying to sincerely warn you of a person, So you just need to, I feel like the best solution to all of that is just really take your time, really be observant, and don't settle.
And let your discernment or your intuition kick in. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Usually you can feel, I know I can. I don't know about anyone. I'm going to speak for myself. I can feel when something's not right. When they telling me certain things, some don't sit with me right. And sure enough, in the end, I come to find out, oh, well, they married. Oh, well, they, in another relationship or something. It's just something don't feel right during that time.
Well, I had an experience where I was really close to God, where I was praying a lot. I would take the time and turn my phone off at that time. Before I was just a cell phone only, I would turn my phone off because I didn't want anybody to interrupt my prayer time. And when you are really dedicated to that and you really have a lifestyle of prayer, God will show you things.
Yes.
And he showed me something in a dream about the guy I was dating. And I was like, I thought this guy was the best guy since sliced bread because he was just doing everything right. And I would not go to his house because I wanted to keep myself. I didn't want to put myself in a position where I was tempted. So I wouldn't go to his house. He would just come to mine. So one day I had a dream where he rushed to my house. And when he got inside, he was tired, kind of like breathing hard like he had been running or something. And I was trying to figure out why was he so tired. And we looked out the window where his car was parked, and another girl got in the car with her own set of keys and drove away.
Oh, wow.
So that was telling me something. Come to find out, he was married.
Oh, wow.
He was married.
Wow.
And the way he was able to get away with that was because I never went to his house, and we had cell phones as a way of communicating.
Well, you know what, Sherry, what I'm finding out now is a lot of these relationships and marriages, women and men are inviting of a third party in a relationship. So now you don't know if they married or not because the woman or the man is accepting of whoever that person is choosing to, engage with.
Yeah, I actually know someone on my job that is very much involved in that. Very much involved in that. And a lot of people around the job know it too. And then she broke up with the guy that she was with and started dating a new guy. And the new guy seemed like he was a more settled kind of guy, more like a keeper. And she let him know early on, this is what I'm into. If you're not down with that, I don't know what to tell you because I'm not changing.
Wow. You know what I can accept? I can accept a guy being honest. Now, I probably won't deal with you. I definitely don't want to deal with somebody that's already in a relationship because I want my own.
Right.
If I'm a single woman, I want a single man. I want to build
fully
single relationship. So I can totally, but the honesty. If a guy meet me and he said, hey, Stacy, I'm married or I'm in a situation, and I'm not talking about one of those, I'm in a situation and I'm not happy or whatever. I'm going to respect him. I'm going to tell him I don't want, anything to do with, any of that because I want a single man who's totally single, who doesn't have any baggage as far as another woman, hanging on or him hanging on to her. That's what I'm looking for. A spiritual man who, we can build on off of our friendship to whatever, God has for us. But I don't want anybody who's with somebody. I do not want, but if they can honestly tell me that up front, I can respect them.
I thank you for the honesty. But
right.
The buck stops here.
But it stops right here. I'm not going any further. But the honesty.
Sometimes they won't tell you that, and then you're just like that guy. He didn't tell me that well. And then I started, as the relationship advanced, I started feeling a little more comfortable with him, and I was getting to a point where maybe I might not mind a visit to your house.
Right.
Well, when that became a topic, then he started becoming a little evasive about it. So now that's raising flags for me, and I'm trying to figure out
Right.
why is this a problem for you?
Right.
He
Right.
started coming up with all these different lines, and so I started doing my homework and everything, and then I started figuring out some stuff, and of course we broke up. But when God sent me that dream, at first I just dismissed it as a dream, but when things came full circle, I understood that God was letting me know that there was a woman in his life, because if she got keys and she can drive away with his car,
Car.
okay, that's telling me something.
Right. And just like I'm sitting here talking to you now, I'm giving you experiences and how, maybe years ago I might have done things because we all have made mistakes. But as the Bible say, when I was a child, I thought as a child, and when I became a man, I put childish things behind me. When I was younger, and like I said, even years ago, because sometimes even though you grow up in a church and you grow up spiritual and you're a Christian, we fall off. And we make bad choices and we do things. But I thank God now that some of the bad mistakes I made, I'm not going to cross those paths anymore. Now, I'm not going to ever say, oh, well, I'm never going to do this and I'm never going to do that. But I know that I'm never going to get involved knowingly with somebody that's married in a relationship now, because I've learned lessons from
Yeah,
that.
because you can get caught up in that too. So, and I really have a distaste for those who lie about those situations, which is what he did, because you are taking away my choice to decide if I want to be a part of something like that.
Absolutely.
So I have no respect for that. And yeah. But again, as you're taking your time in a relationship, these things will unfold at some point in time.
Yes.
So, ladies out there, and gentlemen too, when you have these fly-by-night relationships, just expect that you're not going to get much of what you think you are getting, and you're probably going to get a lot of confusion, a lot of deception, and things of that nature. So you want to be wise in selecting, and don't just settle. Even though you may feel like, oh my God, I love this person, and you're just going to stick with them because of how you're feeling emotionally. That's not the best answer, because you're going to end up paying more than you wanted to pay. Obviously, you staying longer than you wanted to stay. So you need to make sure that you make the wise decisions. If you have to cut it off, just cut it off, because you will get over people. You might feel like you're not, but if you just keep living, you will definitely get over them. And then staying in a relationship too long can also block you from meeting somebody who might really be right for you.
Absolutely.
You're trying to stay in a relationship that's not for you, and you missing what's really good for you. And I'm so glad I'm past the point of appearances. You don't have to look good in your jeans. But I would like for you to be able to stimulate my mind, be a real man, and doing and accepting the responsibility of a man.
Well, thank you, Sherry. It felt so good to talk to you. We haven't talked like this in so long.
I know. I really appreciate the
Thank
conversation.
you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show for today. I really hope that you got something out of it. If you did, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment. Let us know where you're watching from, all that good stuff. And again, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. I don't know if you're seeing this show on YouTube or if you were seeing it on TV. Channel 10, 11, or 16. But however you came across us, we are happy that you stopped by, and we hope that you will come back again. And until next time, see you later.
Bye.
So.